The next thing that I want to do at this point is I need to reduce these edges, this and this, all of these guys. That's going to be made up of these guys here, this and this. These centers don't need any reduction. They represent these over here. This is the crux of this solve, and this is the problem that some people are running into with this. The way to do this is the bottom here, this is going to be the wild card. I can move this any which way I want. It's not going to disrupt anything that I do. When I do a move like this, I got to be sure to move it back. But we're going to do a coordination process, and here's how we're going to do that. These over here, we're going to start putting these edge center pairs together. And the way that we're going to do that is that we see a red over here. I'm going to place a red edge over here and put it in like this. I'm going to rotate it down so it ends up over here, shift it out of the way in this layer, and then move this back up so that we can turn this back up over here. So let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. First off, let me see if there's any ones that are actually in that's easy to demonstrate with, and there isn't. But what I'm going to do is let's focus on this red. I want to put a red one over here. That red one, if it's not here already, I'm going to borrow it from here. This is my wildcard layer. I see this red. When I RIDIRD this will end up over here. So let's do that. Place this to here. RIDIRD, RIDIRD, and just keep going with that. RD. Okay. So with this over here, this red can come into here. What I'm going to be doing is a process of reducing everything. I'm going to put a blue here eventually and a red here eventually. So imagine what's going to happen. See this yellow that's here, this red here? I'm going to move this into here. Then I'm going to RIDARD it until this comes back over here. Take it out of the way, like this, just shift it out of the way. RIDARD it until this comes back, and then move it back in. Now, the one that I'm going to move back in, when I take this down and put it out, then we can decide exactly what it is that we want to put back in here. Why don't we do it, coordinate it to where the one that I put back in is another yellow one. So just to reiterate, I put this in position with this, but I want to get a yellow one that can replace this. I see a yellow here. I'm going to take this and move it into this layer. So RIDIRD, RIDIRD. Okay, this is over here. So let's go back to where we were before, which is here. Okay, so see this yellow? This yellow is going to end up over here. But I'm going to end up RIDIRDing this, and that'll take this out of the way. So I'm just going to bump this out of the way over here. So find a yellow, which will end up over here, get it out of the way, move it right next to it, and here's what we're going to do. Take this red, move it into place so it's just above this red over here. Now RIDIRD it until this red and blue ends up down here. So RIDIRD, RIDIRD. You see it here. Now bump it out of the way to replace it with this. Now RIDIRD it again where this ends up over here. You're going to have to do it twice. If you did it once to bring it down, you got to do it twice to bring it back because it's a 3 cycle of RIDIRDing because this has been offset. So RIDIRD, RIDIRD. Not yet. Do it again. RIDIRD. So now you're done and you're ready to now move these back. You got this yellow one up here, so move it back, and now this is in place. So we keep doing that. We do that over and over and over again until all these are in. So let me demonstrate some more. You see this red one over here. Here's a blue. I can match this up, and this blue matches this over here. Now I want to substitute it, maybe bring a red one in here next. So is there a red one down here that can be used? Well, not this one. This one won't end up over here. It's a red that's going to end up here. So let's keep tooling around. Aha! But it's spoken for. We've already got that one over here. So maybe there's another one that I can use. Well, wherever it is, it's up here somewhere. There's one over here. So keeping my eye on the prize, I'm going to take this. I'm going to bring this down to this level. RIDIRD, RIDIRD. So we're planning ahead. Here it is over here. Let's go back where we were. And you can see, aha, this red one will be used to end up over here. So once you found that, move it to the side. Let's do it again. Move this in. So now this is where it needs to be. Bring it down here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. There it is. Swap it out with this. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. You're going to have to do it twice. R-I-D-I-R-D. It's here. Swap it back. These are all put back, and now we have this over here. So let's keep going with that. Now, you can go this way or you can go this way. You can do it from here. Really doesn't matter. Whatever opportunities you have. For instance, I see an orange here, and I can move that into here. So I'm going to do the same thing, but do it from this direction. A blue is being batted out of the way. So the blue that's going to end up over here is going to come from here. So do we have such a blue that's already here? And the answer is yes, this one. So I'm going to take it out of the way. Now it doesn't matter what happens here, it's going to end up back because I'm just focusing on this whole QB over here. So I'm going to move this over here like so. And remember, I batted this blue out of the way. So move this over here, so we're good. And I'm going to take this orange and white and move it down to here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. It's not there yet. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. It's there. Bump it out of the way. And then move it back. Because it took two of them to bring it down, it's just going to take one to bring it back. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. That's all you need to do. And now we just bring it back. Bang. So now this is in line over here, and you didn't affect anything over there. This moves over to here. Now I have to find a blue that can come over to here. Nothing that I can find down here. And I think it's probably going to be this blue. But this blue is, of course, spoken for, and there's no other blue that I can use. So what I'm going to do is something of an even exchange. So what I might do is I might use this blue, even though it's spoken for. That's okay because I'm just going to substitute it with another blue. So this will come over here, and then I'll put this in to match up to this. So move it in. Actually, bump this out of the way first. Move it in. R-I-D-I-R-D, D-I-R-D. Move this in. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I. R-D. Oop, and move that back. Okay, so it was just an even exchange. And now we take a look and see where we're at. I still have this one, blue and a yellow. So is there anything else that's not matched? And we may be down to the last two at this point. This is in, this is in, this is in, this is in, these are in, these are in, these are in. So what's interesting is I don't seem to, this one over here. And this will be an even exchange. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and again. Okay, so for the last two, how are we going to coordinate that? This can come to here, and this can come to here. So what we're going to have to do is something of a 3-cycle. I can move this in over here, then I have to find another blue to move this back. So this will come over here, then it'll substitute for another blue once I take this out and bring it back. The only way to do that is maybe for 2 blues. So that'll be this one over here. So what we're going to do is move this out of the way, move this in, take this blue and yellow, move it down here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. We got to do it twice. D. Okay, move this one in. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Having done that, we simply move it back. So we've replaced one for another. So now let's take a look. Do we have everything? This is in. This is good. This is good. This is good. And this is good. Good, 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 good. So what we've now done is we've completed our reduction. What that means is all of these 2 by 2 by 2 blocks are equivalent to these guys here, and all of these edge center pairs are equivalent to these guys here. This and this, this and this, and these centers are are the same as these. So basically this has now been reduced to an AI puzzle. This has now been reduced to the same kind of a thing, and we do our second AI solve. So using the same techniques, we can see, let's see if there's anything we can line up here. Well, here's a blue and red. There's a blue and red here as well. Here's a red and white, red and white. Let's turn this around. R-I, D-I, R-D, R-I, D-I, R-D. And again, R-I, D-I, R-D, R-I, D-I, R-D. Move this into here, and you can see we've created this. So this is equivalent to our 1 by 1 by 2 block, just like one of these guys over here. So I'm going to take this, move it top side. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Now that I have that, I can work on this part. So I'm going to look for one that is blue and white with a white center. Here's a blue and white. Is it the correct blue and white? There might be another one in here somewhere. Here's another blue and white. Let's match this up and see if this one works. This one actually works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it up and try to match it to a white center. Maybe this one. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So this is another opportunity to do a AI solve. So it's not just one you got to do, it's two. Anyway, move this over here, and this does match up. So now I'm going to move this down to this side, or that layer. R-I-D-I-R-D. There that is here. Bring it in. And now I have the equivalent of 1 by 2 by 2 block, so I'm going to move this top side. R-I-D-I-R-D. So now I'm looking for the blue and red. Is this the right one here? Yeah, this is the right one. So I'm going to move this up and match it to various centers. Now I got to be careful because this is also blue and red, so I don't want to lose track of which is the right one. This one's the right one. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So this one, look for a red center anywhere. Bang, right over there. Now I'm going to move this down to find a blue center. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. All right, see if I can just get lucky by turning it into a blue center, and I did. So now this whole thing is in. R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, move this in, and after all that, I finally have my 3 by 3 by 3 block. My first 3 by 3 by 3 block finally gotten after doing all the reduction of all the blocks and all the reduction of all the edges, so to speak. Now I've got my first block over here. Second block, same kind of thing. We've got this, try to find a blue and orange. Here's a blue and orange here. Is it the correct one? Is there even another one to choose from? If not, then that's not what it is. Is there an easier one to find? Orange and blue seems to match up with this. Red and blue. Now I know there's another red and blue here somewhere, which is this. So I got lucky. Move this in here. Once I put this in, move it top side. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. After moving it top side, let's quickly get our 1 by 3 block in, back. So now I'm looking for yellow and orange. Here's a yellow and orange over here. Here's a yellow and orange over here. But that's the yellow and red. So yellow and orange. Well, it's probably this guy over here. Looks like that's the only one left. So I have to get this out from under here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Move this out of the way. In the meantime, I could find a blue and yellow. Can't escape it. It's over here. So we'll just move this out of the way here like so. Then move this corner piece around until it can match up with this. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. And again, R-D. And splat. So this is in, And we managed to get this back. So we move this top side. So nothing new with this. It's just a question of keeping your perspective. That's what's fun about this, is it's an AI, pure and simple, if you can call it simple, but we have to keep our perspective. Blue and yellow. Here's a blue and yellow. Is it the right one? Well, I don't think there's any other blue and yellows. Nope, there's this. So I can match it up and say, this is the right one. So with that said, I'm going to move this up and match it up with the proper yellow center and blue center. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, finding a blue center. Right over here. Now that I have that, flip it upside down to get a yellow center. Now what's interesting is I also placed this blue and white, so that's going to serve me well too. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Got a couple birds with one stone. Put a sheet in over here, and now, pow, all too easy. This one is now placed. So R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. This is moved to the center. So this can be moved in over here. Now, for some reason, I put the other one in. I'm not sure why I did that, but I can move this in over here and then move this top side. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Boom. Okay. So we have this over here, and I'm looking for the orange and blue. It's not this one. It's this one. So I'm going to match this up with an orange center and a blue center, which means I'm probably going to want to use this one. If I'm going to want to use that one, I'm going to move this over here. I'm not using this 3x3x3 bar. Remember, keep your perspective. I'm going to take this and move it over here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. It's over there. Move this back. I'm going to take this, move it over here. Bang. That's where it needs to be. Flip it upside down. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. It's now flipped upside down, so I can go kersplat and move it back. Okay, upon doing that, what I want to do is I want to find a blue center. Here's a blue center here, but that's bonded with the wrong one. Here's a blue center over here, so let's use this one. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Blue center is over here. Can I match with this? 1, 2, it does. So I've got this, now I'll bring this down to the middle. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-D. So this is down here now. 1. So this is now in, but I've got to coordinate it with this one over here. The way to do that, move it in, then move it once more and do 2R U, 2R UI, 2R, turn, 2R UI, 2R U, 2R. And move it back. Whoop. So this is in and this is in. So I've got my two 3x3x3 bars. Now, if you're losing perspective a little bit, understand I'm not doing anything any different from this. And remember, with the AI solve, the two blocks here, the first two are the easiest to get. That's all I'm doing. Now we're going to do this. Now here's where things become merciful. I could finish an AI solve completely with this, but I don't have to. I don't have to because the purpose of this was to do a parity-free solve, not an AI solve. So far you've seen that there's been no parities with this. So continuing our parity-free process, we've got this over here, so this corner is associated with this edge. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to bring this top side, R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Now here's what you're going to do. Take these new corners, these reduced corners, match it up to any of these reduced edges that you can. So now that I have this on the top side, blue and orange, find a blue and orange, it's here. So I'm going to take this and move it down here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. So what I want to have happen is this will come over here, and I've got this sheet over here. I can move this top side. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and now move it back. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I can now take this block over here, which is matched with this edge, move it over here so it's matched with this edge. Now I'm going to move this up. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Now you're probably fearful for the next AI portion, but fear not, it'll all be fine. Move this over here. These blocks are still in, and now let's take a look at what we have here. We've got every one of these blocks associated with an edge, which is what I want. Blocks associated with an edge. Now normally what I would do at this point is I'd have to kind of finagle my way into doing some fancy footwork to get these centers placed with the proper, the proper edge. I don't need to do that now. I'm actually done with the whole AI concept. All I need to do at this point is I need to place 1, 2, 3 centers. I don't have to look at this as though this puzzle were bandaged. It's really not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the simple last 2 center algorithms that you've seen me do for a variety of different puzzles. So looking at this over here, I want to put this white over here. So I could do the algorithm that puts this to here, this to here, and this to here. I just have to coordinate it to where the colors make sense. So I want to put a white one over here. I don't have to hold it in any particular order at this point. Well, let's see. Let's see what's going to make sense. This will go to here. This will go to here. I can even hold it like this to make even more sense. So what's going to happen is this will go to here, this will go to here, and this will go to here. So what I'm looking for is maybe putting a red one in this area here. So it doesn't matter how I get it there. You can get it there any old way you want. But suffice to say, I want to put this here. Okay, so this will come here, which is good. This will come here, which is good. This will come here, which is not what I want. So I'm going to actually do it that way because then at the end of the day, a red will be here and a yellow will be here. So I'm going to take this, move this into here, bat it to the side, move this up over here. Bat it back, bring it down, bat it across, bring it down. It's the same algorithm I've been using, and then bring that back over here. Okay, so at the end of the day, that did place this to here, and this to here. Now I just have to flip-flop these guys. It's not really flip-flopping. I can easily coordinate a 3-cycle. To coordinate that, again, I can move these all around as much as I can. And I want to move this to here, and this to here. So let's just position this in a position where that can happen. This will come here, this will come here, and this will come here. I basically deconstructed the puzzle to here. So this will be my R. So R, UI, LI, U, RI, UI, L. Reconstructed, reconstructed back. There we go. So basically I went outside of the AI parameters and placed it where I had to place it. So no really great new algorithms with this, aside from corner swaps and those center placements and a layer by layer. That's it. Now I'm down to a 2 by 2 by 2 solve, which because I reduced it from a 6 by 6 to a 2 by 2, that reductive process took me from one even layer puzzle to another even layer puzzle, which means I don't have a problem of parity of reduction as I go from odd to even. When I go from even to even, there is no parity because you're going from one parity to the same parity. Even parity to odd parity. If I went from even parity, a 6 by 6, to an odd parity, a 3 by 3, by doing that reduction, I'm going to get a parity problem because I'm going from one parity to another, leading to a parity problem. By taking it from one parity, which is a 6 by 6, an even layer, to the same parity, which is another even layer 2 by 2, I won't run into a parity problem. Parity problems occur when you go from one type of parity to another and try to solve it as such. All parity means is oddness or evenness. And if you take an even layer puzzle, reduce it to an odd layer puzzle, you've changed the parity and can run into parity problems. If you take an even layer puzzle, 6 by 6, reduce it to another even layer puzzle, 2 by 2, you won't run into any parity problems. So now it's just a question of doing a plain old simple 2 by 2 solve, which you can probably, at this point, do in your sleep. Unfortunately, I'm not asleep right now, so this might take me a little longer than it should. But In any case, getting my greens here, turn, 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 and I'm almost done. 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, turn here, 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R. And one more corner swap, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, turn, 2R, UI, 2R, U, and you're done. Well, almost, there we go, done. So there you have it. A parity-free solve of a 6x6, starting off with a layer-by-layer solve, going to an AI technique to put in the corners, to a semi-half AI technique, and just placing the last centers. So get all of your reduced corners to your reduced edges, and then place your true centers by just doing the techniques of the last two centers. So in that way, that's possible to do it completely parity free. All you've got to be is at least a little comfortable with the AI solve. So there you have it. You can try this technique on any type of even puzzle if you just don't like parities. So give it a try. Thanks for watching.